Hello, everyone. On April 15th, 1912, at around 11:40 p.m., the captain of the Titanic spotted an iceberg directly in their path. He immediately ordered the crew to turn the wheel, but it was too late. The enormous ship scraped along the iceberg's frosty exterior. From the looks of things, it wasn't a fatal blow, though. The captain assumed that Titanic had avoided disaster. However, less than 3 hours later, the once proud ship was lying in pieces at the bottom of the ocean. Titanic had sunk. Over 1,500 passengers and crew lost their lives. It was a devastating loss, and the world mourned. In the aftermath, several theories about the sinking emerged. But over the years, the truth has become blurred by fiction and Hollywood embellishments. So, what really happened to the Titanic? Join us today as we look into the timeline of the doomed ship and see whether we can shed some light on the case. The first sighting of the Titanic was on April 2, 1912. This is when the ship set sail on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City. Everything went according to plan, and 4 days into the journey, Titanic was steaming along smoothly. There were 2,200 people on board, consisting of 885 crew members and 1,306 passengers. Among the passengers were John Jacob Astor IV, a wealthy businessman, Benjamin Guggenheim, a mining tycoon, and Captain Edward Smith, the ship's captain. At 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, lookout Frederick Fleet spotted an iceberg directly in Titanic's path. He alerted the captain, who wasted no time giving commands. The crew rushed to maneuver the ship away from the iceberg, but it was too late. Titanic had already hit the iceberg. At first, it seemed as if the ship had escaped major damage. So the crew got back to work, and everything seemed to be okay. Passengers continued dining in the restaurant while the crew made minor repairs to the ship's hull. However, during the early hours of April 15th, the true extent of the damage became clear. As the icy waters seeped into Titanic's hull, the ship began to sink. Panic soon ensued, and the passengers rushed to the deck. Unfortunately, there weren't enough lifeboats to go around. In fact, there were barely any lifeboats at all. The nearest lifeboat was around 20 miles away. By 2 a.m., Titanic had sunk over 2,000 feet deep into the water. Only 700 people had survived. It was a sad end to a ship that was once considered unsinkable. As news of the disaster spread, people wanted answers. What had caused such a massive ship to sink? Official investigations revealed a number of contributing factors. Poor visibility, excessive speed, and a lack of lifeboats all played a role in the high death toll. But many people have disputed these findings. Instead, they have put forward their own theories about what led to the sinking of the Titanic. One such theory is that a massive coal fire had broken out in the ship's hull before it set sail. According to this theory, the fire had been smoldering for weeks before it was finally extinguished by water from the iceberg. Proponents of the theory believed that the fire weakened the steel plates on the starboard side of the ship, making it more susceptible to damage. This allowed water to pour into the ship, causing it to sink. While there is no concrete evidence to support this theory, it has been backed by a number of coincidences. For example, witnesses reported seeing smoke coming from the starboard side of the ship before it hit the iceberg. Additionally, the ship's captain had requested that the starboard lifeboats be lowered into the water before he abandoned ship. These actions would make sense if the captain believed that his ship was going to sink on that side. Moreover, the exact location where Titanic sank is roughly 500 yards away from where the Olympic had been damaged by a coal fire. It might seem like a stretch, but the coincidence is certainly intriguing. Another controversial claim is that Titanic never actually sank. Some believe it was secretly swapped with her nearly identical sister ship, the RMS Olympic, as part of an insurance scam. The theory goes that the Olympic was heavily damaged in a collision with another ship and was not seaworthy. To collect on the insurance policy, the owners of the Olympic transferred ownership to the Titanic and sank the Olympic in her place. There is no concrete evidence to support this theory, but it has been fueled by a number of suspicious circumstances surrounding the sinking of Titanic. For example, There were no lifeboats at the scene despite the fact that the captain had requested them. Additionally, there were reports of explosions on board the ship prior to its sinking, which would be consistent with an intentional act rather than an accident. Finally, the wreck of the Titanic was never recovered, which has led some to believe that it was never there in the first place. While most historians dismiss the theory that Titanic was swapped with the Olympic as nothing more than a conspiracy, the theory refuses to die. After all, it would make sense that someone would want to collect on the insurance policy by faking the sinking of one ship and replacing it with another. Whether or not this is what actually happened remains to be seen. It is also important to note that survivors reported seeing mysterious ships nearby at the time of the sinking, including the SS Californian, which some believe could have rescued Titanic's passengers if they had responded faster. Why didn't help arrive in time? Was the Californian aware of Titanic's flares and chose to ignore them? Or was there another ship that could have helped but didn't? These are just a few of the many questions that remain unanswered. Adding to the mystery, after Titanic was declared unsinkable, the ship's captain refused to slow down despite warnings of icebergs in the area. Could he have been trying to prove that the ship was unsinkable? Was he aware that the ship was doomed? And if so, why didn't he warn the passengers and crew? These are just a few of the many questions that remain unanswered. While the sinking of Titanic claimed the lives of over 1,500 people, there were also a small number of survivors. However, even their stories are shrouded in mystery. Many survivors reported seeing strange lights in the sky at the time of the sinking, leading some to believe that an extraterrestrial spacecraft may have caused the crash. Others have claimed that the survivors were actually passengers on a different ship that was scheduled to depart on the same day as Titanic, but they missed their boarding time and ended up on the wrong ship. While these claims cannot be verified, they serve to further complicate the already confusing narrative surrounding the sinking of Titanic. After the Titanic sank, a massive search and rescue operation was launched. But despite the best efforts of the crew, only 700 people were found alive. The rest of the passengers and crew were declared dead. In the aftermath, there was a lot of finger-pointing and blame-shifting. Investigations revealed that the captain had been warned about icebergs in the area, but he failed to take any action. Additionally, the crew had not been properly trained and there were not enough lifeboats. All of these factors contributed to the high death toll. But not everyone was convinced that these were the real reasons for the sinking. Some people started to believe that there was more to the story. They started to ask questions that had never been asked before. For example, why did the Titanic break apart the way it did? The official investigation had claimed that the ship broke apart as it sank, but this had not been witnessed by anyone. Had the ship actually broken apart before it reached the bottom of the ocean? If so, why? Was it because of the coal fire? Other questions surrounded the warnings that had been given to the crew. Why had the crew not slowed down when they were told that there were icebergs in the area? Had they been deliberately ignoring the warnings? Was there something on board the ship that they were trying to hide? These questions remain unanswered to this day. Despite the mystery surrounding the sinking of Titanic, one thing is clear: the event had a profound impact on the world. In the aftermath of the disaster, new safety regulations were put in place for ships, including requirements for lifeboats and 24-hour radio operation. These measures helped to prevent future disasters and save countless lives. Today, the wreck of the Titanic is a popular tourist destination. Visitors from all over the world come to pay tribute to the victims and learn about the history of the ship. The Titanic remains more than just a shipwreck. It is a symbol of human ambition, tragedy, and unanswered questions. Some mysteries may never be solved, but one thing is certain: the story of the Titanic will continue to haunt and fascinate us for generations to come. What do you think really happened to the Titanic? Do you believe that the ship was cursed, or that there was foul play involved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for more updates. Have a great day.